I'm going to answer that. Hammurabi. Anybody heard of the Code of Hammurabi? People who like to criticize the Bible and say, it's just all the same old stuff. 10 Commandments, big deal. Got the Code of Hammurabi from Babylon. Way back. In fact, it's older than, and it is. It's older than the 10 Commandments, the Code of Hammurabi, and they're very similar. Anyway, this Hammurabi guy, that's where he's from. And he starts a kingdom down here, Babylon. So, what's going on here? No one goes here. They always go this way. Now, these kingdoms need to do trade with this one. And this kingdom needs to do trade with this one. So where do they always have to go? They are right through there. They have to go there. Anyone over here? Same thing. They have to go through there. So God wants to send a message to the world. He calls his man. He says, go there. There, go there, right there.
At the central next.
Everyone's got to go through you. You can have a direct impact on the whole world, right from this tiny spot. It's really in the center of the world, especially then. Now, this deal where you got trade happening now back and forth, people naturally tend to follow ways that is easy to take caravans, and so there's these two routes that were developed. And over on the right, you have one that we talk about less, called the King's Highway, and on the west, through Israel, you have what's called the Way of the Sea, or the Romans called it the Way of the Sea, the Via Maris in Latin, they call it. So you'll hear that term, the Via Maris. There's a milestone. When the Romans had this road, of course, they recognized this thing, controlling trade, so they improved the roads, and they have these milestones. And this is what Yeshua is talking about when he says if someone forces you to go a mile with him, go 2. Well, how do you know what a mile is? You could. You know what a mile is. And the point is, you have no choice. You have to go the mile. Because they were a Roman occupation. The soldiers had the right to ask anyone, they had a heavy load or something, they could just say, you, move this, we need to go. But by Roman law, you were only allowed to compel them to go 1 mile. So they were only allowed to make you go 1 mile. And so you had to go 1 mile, but Yeshua says, yes, do what you have to, but do more than you have to. And people are going to say, you crazy? Why are you doing that? Well, let me tell you why I'm doing that. The love. Yeshua. So he's showing you how to live in such a way that people will be intrigued to learn about God. This is a great map, a medieval map of the world. Jerusalem is the center of the whole world. You've got these 3 petals here, Europe, Asia, Africa. And really it's kind of true. I like that. All right, so here come the Hittites. And Assyria is getting bigger. All right, so this whole thing is getting more complicated.
Babylon is still small.
Babylon is really small. And in fact, in a little bit, it's going to be a lot smaller. Oh, there it goes. Now, obviously, we're moving through centuries pretty fast.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get too detailed. So Assyria expands. They've done away with the Hittites by now. They didn't last very long. They were big, but they didn't last very long. Now, understand that these are just boundary things. The people of Babylon are still there, but now they're a vassal of, and they're included in the territory of, Assyria. So scholars call Assyria, the Assyrian Empire, the first actual empire on earth. Why? Because a kingdom is your own territory.
Right.
An empire is your territory and his territory.
Right.
That's an empire. So the Assyrians are the first ones to say, what's mine is mine, what's yours is mine. So that's an empire. And there's still a king there, but he has to serve you, the emperor. That's the empire. So anyway, you can see they get bigger. Now there's a little bit of a dispute between Egypt, but they work it out. Time goes by. Assyria gets much, much bigger. Now remember, we already saw the divided kingdom, and this, where Assyria ends, they come and take away the northern kingdom. That's what's going on there.
So wait, so the blank that you're showing there is actually Jerusalem and
Yeah, it's just that Israel, Egypt doesn't control it.
Assyria
It's its own.
doesn't control it
The
yet.
kingdom of Judah is there.
Right.
Yeah. Because the king of Assyria stopped at Samaria and went home. It says here in Kings, the Israelites copied the sin which Jeroboam had committed. They did not give it up until at length Yahweh thrust Israel away from him, the northern kingdom. As he had foretold through all his servants the prophets, he deported the Israelites from their own country to Assyria, where they have been ever since. The king of Assyria, now this is important. The king of Assyria brought other people from Babylon and all these other places and settled them in the towns of Samaria to replace the Israelites. Okay? This is what the Assyrian kings thought was the smart move. All throughout history you have empires, the Greeks, the Romans, and what they would do is come conquer a territory, say, hey, we got the hammer, we're going to beat you if you don't do what we say. Okay, we give, we'll do what you say. And they leave everything alone. Same people are there, the church, the religious institutions are there, the businesses are there. Only now you got to pay me. Kind of like the mafia. You can have your store, but every time I come in, you got to pay me the money. So that's the way empires normally work. They just leave stuff, because it's a lot less work to just leave things alone and say, okay, business as usual plus my cut. Well, the Assyrians didn't see it that way. The Assyrians thought, if we leave them intact, they might decide one day, hey, I don't like this, and fight back. So at least what this king did is he took away the people that were there and settled them over here, and took the people from all over here and put them there. He screwed them up. Now, that is the reason why, when you read later in the New Testament where the Jews have nothing to do with the Samaritans, because nothing's ever 100%. All the Jews didn't leave, all the people didn't leave, just most of them. And then they intermarried, right, with the new people that came in. They gave up the faith, they didn't, whatever. So it was a hybrid, and the position of the people in Judah was that these were so wicked and such a rotten thing that they weren't even humans anymore. They actually weren't even human beings anymore. And that'll come in later when we look at a parable. So I just wanted you to understand the background behind the whole thing with Samaria.
Is this part of the feuding we have still to this day?
Well, I mean, a lot of bad blood goes into there. During the time of the temple, there was a lot of bad blood between them. In fact, if you were alone and you were traveling, if you're a Jew and you're alone traveling through Samaria, someone saw you, you'd get killed. And if you were a Samaritan and you were alone in the Galilee or in the Judean territory, somebody would kill you. So you had to travel in little bands or you'd be in trouble. And they would do stuff to each other, like, it's really important to do the festivals and the feasts at a specific time. So, and it's Jerusalem time. So they would light signal fires. And the time would be kept in Jerusalem, and they would light the signal fire, and then you'd know, okay, it's time. The sacrifice is happening in Jerusalem, or whatever. Well, the Samaritans would light false signal fires to throw people off. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of bad blood between them.